Thanks everybody for coming today. I'm Stephanie Corbett, Director of Sustainability at Case Western Reserve University. We have goals to be a climate neutral institution by 2050. Sounds far away. Not really when you look at our numbers. We have a very big carbon footprint. Transportation is a piece of that puzzle that is hard to address alone as a university. We want more people taking transit. We want more people biking to work, using creative ways to carpool and vanpool. Luckily, Northeast Ohio has a growing arsenal of options, most of which you are going to hear about today from our Star Wolf panel. These are the rock stars of sustainable transportation in Northeast Ohio. I can't believe this isn't a packed room because the information here is really valuable for especially owners, those who have employees, and those who are passionate about transforming how we transport ourselves here in Northeast Ohio. At CASE, I'm always trying to find creative ways to address the cultural change we need to get people out of single occupancy vehicles. So I'm really excited to learn from these guys today. We, of course, have our own story. And I've been working on sustainability in Northeast Ohio for coming up on close to 20 years. So I may jump in every once in a while with my own stories as well. Feel free, if you have a really urgent burning question that you think has a pretty fast answer. I think we can be pretty casual today, so go ahead and ask it. If it's something that multiple panelists might be able to answer or that's going to take a little longer, we might hold it till the end so we can get through all of their great content and have a really robust discussion with you towards the end of today. So first up, we've got Tim from NOACA, our Northeast Ohio area-wide coordinating agency, and he served as project volunteer manager with the Gay Games in 2014, which is a really exciting event that came to the area, has an MA in global environmental policy. I'm not going to read all of his accolades. We're really lucky to have him working in this area. He's absolutely passionate and is helping our staff figure out how to use the platform that he's going to showcase to you guys today. So Tim, go for it.
Great. So I'm going to more or less stay seated, I guess, because I'm not a very loud talker. And, have a lot of information, so I'll try to get through it. So as Stephanie mentioned, I'm one of the air quality planners at NOACA. I was the only one for a while, but Beth Burslev, who's now our other air quality planners here in the back. And I'm going to talk to you both about kind of the region's transportation system and some of the issues, and then focus on a program that NOACA just recently launched, Ohio Commute, which is one of our solutions as a way to try to address the issues that we're going to lay out here. So for those of you who aren't familiar with NOACA, we are the Metropolitan Planning Organization for Northeast Ohio, covering Cuyahoga, Geauga, Lake, Lorraine, and Medina counties, which is about a 2.1 million person region. MPOs are federally mandated agencies that help determine how transportation dollars are going to be spent within a metropolitan area. And our primary focus is on two areas, both transportation and environmental planning, and I work obviously on the environmental planning side of the house. All told, NOACA controls about $50 billion in investments in the region each year. So anytime that federal transportation dollars are going to be spent within the region, NOACA will in some way, shape, or form have a say in how that's determined. So I want to discuss a little bit about our region's ongoing transportation challenges. MPOs like NOACA were originally introduced by the 1962 Federal Aid Highway Act, and NOACA came into being in 1968. And one of the main roles of an MPO is to create what's called a long-term transportation plan. And that's basically an overarching 20-year vision of how the region's going to invest in transportation and what our goals and priorities and how we're going to measure that progress. We developed our first LRTP in 1968. We're actually completing our LRTP for 2040 right now. And so we're having public meetings on the report this week. So feel free to keep an eye out for that. And if you've been able to come to one of our meetings, great. If not, I believe there's one more today. And so as I mentioned, we developed our first LRTP in 1968. And at that time, the city of Cleveland had 800,000 residents. Regionally, we had about 2.3 million people, which was the peak of our population in 1970. And we were assuming at the time that population was going to continue to grow. And so that 20-year vision was based on the assumption that we were going to see another 1 million people move into the Northeast Ohio region by the end of that 20-year cycle. And that didn't happen. Population actually not only stagnated, but declined. By 2010, we were at just under 2.1 million people in the region. But the investments that we made followed those projections. And so we've now built a transportation system for a region 50% larger than what we have now. And that's created a whole host of challenges that we're still struggling to deal with almost 40 years later. So what are some of those challenges? As I mentioned, we've overbuilt our transportation system, and and that has helped to contribute to both suburban sprawl and our ongoing population loss issues. There's a 2007 study from a researcher in Princeton who found that every time you built a new highway for an urban center, the city center population reduced by 18%. And so that has directly fostered the suburban sprawl we continue to face. As sprawl has increased, population density has fallen. Overall, the amount of people living per developed acre in the NOAC region has fallen by 25% since the 1970s. As that population is spread out, alternative forms of transportation have just become less viable. Really, in order to have reliable transit service, you need to have at least 7 residential units per acre. And if you want to have really robust, frequent service, you need to have at least double that. And in large swaths of the region, that just doesn't exist. The RTA relies on we have a great 1% sales tax that Cuyahoga County has applied to itself since RTA was established. But because of population loss, RTA has lost $68 million per year due to declining population in Cuyahoga County since 1970. Which, as we see the state continue to chip away at transit funding, RTA's 70% of its funds come from this 1% sales tax, and those revenues keep declining as well. This has obviously contributed to our region's reliance on single-occupant vehicles, where people driving themselves alone wherever they need to go. Nationally, the average of single-occupant vehicles is about 76%. Here in Northeast Ohio, in the NOAC region, it's actually 82.3%, which may not seem like a significant amount, but since that's actually gone up 4% since just 1990. So things aren't really getting better. They've continued to actually get worse. We've heard a lot about people moving back into cities, and that's clearly happening in Northeast Ohio. And if you look at the sprawl index, which is basically a way to measure how people are developing throughout a region, our sprawl index score actually increased by a worse percentage than almost any city in the country during the mid-2000s or mid-2010s. Ultimately, this heavy reliance on single-occupant vehicles have undermined both economic and social mobility in the region. Only 57% of NOAC area residents have access to transit, whereas 10% of people in the region lack access to a car. And in Cleveland, that's about a quarter. So, and in some neighborhoods on the east side of Cleveland, it's upwards of 50% of people don't have access to a car. And there's the serious disconnect between jobs and housing that's only getting worse. The Brookings Institute released a report in 2015 that looked at how accessible jobs are for the average individual in the region, and no city performed worse or had a bigger increase in job disconnect than Northeast Ohio. We saw 26% more jobs become inaccessible to the average resident from 2000 to 2012. Ultimately, the nearest job hub for someone who has a car is about 20 minutes away, but if you take transit, that increases to 75 minutes, which can just be prohibitive, both in terms of opportunity cost of time and personal expenses. And from a holistic sense, this really contributes to a poor quality of life that a lot of people have in this region. We talk about how affordable it is to live in Northeast Ohio, but that's kind of deceptive. The Center for Neighborhood Technology in Chicago puts out what it calls its Housing and Transportation Index, which is basically the relative cost of living based on housing and transportation scores. And in the Cleveland metro area, the average household spends 54% of its income on housing and transportation, which is higher than almost any city, including New York, Chicago, DC, San Francisco, Boston, Seattle. Really, only a handful of Sun Belt cities like LA and Las Vegas are worse than this. This obviously limits the viability of active transportation, which contributes to obesity and other health issues. And then, as the air quality planner, I'm really concerned about its impact on air quality. Transportation plays kind of an outsized role in our region's ongoing air quality problems. And a 2013 study said that air pollution from mobile emissions kills about 384 people in Greater Cleveland every year, which is more than homicide. It's a significant issue. So it can be really difficult to tackle those are overarching issues in any real immediate way. One option to try to address that is through what's known as ride sharing, carpooling, and alternative commute modes. And NOAC has worked, NOAC, like other NPOs that have worked on this over the course of the past several decades. We used to have a program that you may be familiar with, the signs on the highways of Ohio Rideshare. That was a carpooling website and hotline that we had for 13 counties in Northeast Ohio with our partner MPOs in Akron and Eastgate, Youngstown, which is Eastgate. It actually was separate from the rest of the state. So four MPOs in Cincinnati, Columbus, Dayton, and Toledo were at their own program, which had a very unique name of ASHRAE, Ohio, that didn't cause anybody any confusion. But ultimately, both of those programs were extremely outdated. I like to say our technology was basically stuck in about 2006. And they were limited to kind of one-on-one carpool matching. So someone would call me on the hotline, and I would try to help find that person a carpool ride in a region of two, in a 13-county area. It's just not efficient using any of those resources. And so very few people use the site. I was pretty much the only person in the region using the website. And it's kind of hard for people to carpool when it's me and I don't even drive. And so beginning in 2015, when I came on board with NOACA, the 7 MPOs started to come together to try to figure out both how we could create a unified system as well as how we can enhance what we have. And we really wanted to shift away from this individual one-on-one ride matching to a concept, paradigm shift called transportation demand management, which is basically a suite of incentives, pricing structures, transportation options that kind of work to level the playing field. The scale is significantly tipped towards driving alone in this region. There's very few disincentives towards it. There's a lot of incentives towards it. So the TDM is really just a way to try to tip the scales back to some sort of parity. And so we through this process, we worked together over the past few years to develop Go Ohio Commute, which is our new, it rolled out in NOACA on April 17th, but we have formally launched it last Thursday. It's our new statewide, unified, mobile responsive site that combines trip planning, ride matching, and trip logging into one convenient tool that helps to incentivize smarter commute options. It encourages and incentivizes users to consider alternatives to driving alone, and it helps ultimately people to expand their transportation choice. And that's one of our goals at NOACA. We're not going to tell anyone how to get around. We just want to give people options and give them the resources that they need to make their own decisions. So ultimately, it's really a one-stop shop. If you want to get from any point A to point B in almost the entire state of Ohio, and actually into 3 other states, because some of our partners cover Indiana, Kentucky, and Michigan, with really information on any multimodal option you can imagine that's available. Interactive maps show the routes that you're looking for by each mode, and allow you to find matches for carpools, van pools, and bike pools as well. So what are the goals of Go Ohio Commute? Ultimately, our biggest goal is to help promote mode shift, to reduce that drive alone rate from 82% back down towards the national average, and hopefully ultimately below the national average would be great. That's a long-term goal though. Doing so will help people to save money on their commute costs. 24% of the average household income in Cleveland goes to transportation. That's why that cost is so high. It will help to reduce congestion. We don't really have congestion in most of the region, but there are areas like downtown Cleveland, University Circle, parts of Columbus, and other cities where we do have actual congestion issues. And so this will help for the people who do stay in their cars, who aren't interested in shifting their modes, or who don't have an option not to drive alone. This can help to make it easier for them as well. And when you have less congestion, you also make the system operate better and reduce mobile emissions from idling and kind of stuff. It should reduce stress. They do these surveys of how people get around, and every time, without fail, people who drive alone have the worst commute. And generally, people who bike or take transit are much more satisfied with their commute unless they have really long muscle gains or things of that nature. It should reduce parking demand. Again, parking is pretty ubiquitous in the region, but there are particular pockets. Downtown Cleveland during a Cavs playoff game is a pretty difficult place to find parking for less than $100 in some instances. And so this can help to reduce that demand. It'll also hopefully help organizations that feel like they're in a parking pinch because so many of their employees drive and feel like they may need to build a new parking deck or a new lot. Hopefully they can utilize Go Ohio Commute and help to reduce investment instead in TDM as a way to reduce parking demand. Obviously, I hope that this helps to improve air quality in the region. We're in non-attainment for 3 of the national ambient air quality standards. We just got out of non-attainment for ozone, but we should be back in non-attainment come October when the new designations come out. And so that's really directly tied to transportation. That's an ongoing problem that obviously has real health issues. And ultimately, that will improve public health both by increasing active transportation as well as improving air quality for the region. So Go Ohio Commute really tries to promote and incentivize alternative commutes in 3 ways. The first is by giving transparent information on the costs and benefits of how you get around. Normally we don't think about what it costs to drive somewhere, or what the benefits are of biking instead, or what the benefits might be of taking transit instead. And Go Ohio Commute gives those up front to you so that you have the information you need to make better informed decisions. It also helps to incentivize alternative commutes through user-friendly competitions and challenges, which one of which we've just launched is our annual Commuter Choice Awards. So you can host challenges within your organization, between different organizations, within components of your organization, so one company versus another, for instance. And it's real-time leaderboards, and all of this information is updated on a regular basis. Lastly, and this is a thing that we're really excited about, is giving individual employers the opportunity to create a site on our create a subsite on our platform, and then to offer customized incentives to their employees. I'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute, but this is really a key crux of what we're trying to do with Go Ohio Commute. So this map here shows the user experience. It's static. If I could do a live demo, I would, but it would take up most of the session. So this is a trip from Lakewood City Hall to our location currently, trying to arrive for this morning session. I ran this the other day. And as you can see, it maps out your trip. So that's your starting location, that's your end location. And those, you can drag and drop those anywhere you want. So if you change your mind and you want to drop it over here, you can do that. The system will automatically reset. It shows all of your options here on the left side. So driving alone, biking, walking, taking transit, carpool, and vanpool. I chose transit for this particular trip. As you can see, you can choose when you want to arrive by or when you want to depart, and set that time, and the system will automatically update your transit options. You click on it, and it shows you the directions, how you need to walk, where you need to walk, when to catch the bus, etc. It communicates directly with our TA's backend, so all that information is pulled in there. You can see here, it might be a little bit hard to read, but these numbers here on the right-hand side of the modes are those cost and benefits that I discussed. So you'll know that if you drove, I believe it says 5 pounds of CO2 will be generated if you drive. It will cost you, I think it says $2.40, that's based on AAA's cost per mile to drive. It'll be 4.2 miles, and it'll take 15 minutes. If you take transit, it'll produce half as much CO2. If you bike and walk, it will produce no CO2, and it will save you this much money versus driving alone. We also are able to you're also able to toggle on and off these map layers, which we've worked on installing. So there's actually real-time traffic data that pulls from open source traffic information. All the locations of the park and ride lots in the NOACA region are listed. So you can click on one of those, start or end a trip there. So you want to carpool from the park and ride with someone, you can start or end your trip from there. All of the UH bike locations, I worked with Alex to input those. So same thing, we want to encourage, not everyone's going to get from point A to point B on one single mode unless they're driving or they live on a bus stop. And so you can plan multimodal trips by clicking on UH bikes, clicking on park and rides, as well as EV charging stations, which will tell you if you do own an electric vehicle, hopefully it'll help to alleviate some range anxiety that you might have. As I mentioned, the system does provide the opportunity to develop carpools as well as bike pools. And so this shows that interface. You can put the start and end location for your trip, set the dates and times that you're looking to travel. You can indicate whether or not you want to be a driver, a rider, both. You can say that you prefer to commute with someone of the same gender, opposite gender, either gender. And then one feature that a lot of people are interested in is you can restrict your carpool matches to just people you work with or people who are members of networks that you're working with. So if I only want to travel, if I say I only want people from NOACA to be able to see this, I can limit it to NOACA, or I can make it available to the entire region. And the last feature that we're really focused on is kind of the employer and university sub-site component. This gives the ability to businesses, organizations, colleges, etc., to create their own networks within Go Ohio Commute for no cost. This enables them to manage and administer their own individual set of users to keep track of their activity and progress through a variety of robust reporting features. You can also create those targeted incentives and challenges that I mentioned to encourage employees to try alternative commute modes. So that could be things like offering a discount on health insurance premiums for people who bike to work. You can provide subsidized transit passes for bus riders, or you can provide preferred parking or discounts on parking for carpoolers. You can also host fun interactive challenges to enable your users to compete with one another, to compete with other departments, to compete with other organizations. The platform also helps with what we call gamify commuting, so you earn badges each time you hit a milestone on all of your commutes, and then you can automatically share that to social media to show that what you're doing and try to encourage your friends and relatives and followers to take part as well. So next steps, on June 1st, we're going to be hosting a session for the community development corporations, the neighborhood groups, Equitable Neighborhood Progress, so if anyone is here affiliated with those or is interested in having your neighborhood in the city Cleveland take part, let them know about this. On June 15th, we're going to be hosting a workshop at the Downtown Cleveland Alliance for downtown businesses, organizations, universities, etc. We're really trying to work with the neighborhood organizations to capture the smaller businesses. So for an organization like the Cleveland Clinic or UH or Square Path Blog that have a robust HR department, sustainability department, it won't be a big deal for them to manage the system, but for a two-person restaurant it might be. And so we want to try to capture those through some of the neighborhood organizations. We just launched our annual Commuter Choice Awards, and June 16th is going to be the deadline to submit your survey for that, which is step 1. That tells us what you're doing at your organization to promote alternative commutes. And then July 1st is when we're going to be kicking off our Commuter Choice Challenge feature, which is going to be all the organizations that have created subsites on the network and fill out the survey will be able to actually keep track of their employees' commute behaviors in real time. See who's performing well, who's incentivizing these things. And so that's it. As Stephanie mentioned, if you have any really brief questions, I can answer them. Otherwise, we can wait till the end.
All right, let's keep going. Next up, we've got RTA. Jim Frick should look familiar to people in the room. If you have a commuter program at your employer, he's probably the one who sold you on it. He's been at RTA for quite a while. The Commuter Advantage program is a really cool way to allow your employees to have pre-tax dollars. He's going to tell us all about it. Carrie is kind of known in my world as the sustainability guru at RTA. And so she's going to share a lot of interesting stats with us. GCRTA, Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority. She's in the Management Development Program and is an analyst. Looking at all those good numbers and super involved in lots of professional and networking organizations in sustainability in Northeast Ohio. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys. You don't have slides, so I'm going to keep this guy.
Great. Good morning, everyone. I love a microphone. Matter of fact, I go rogue a lot, so my company doesn't know what to do with me. I will be, laconic in my remarks on an overview of our programs, but I thought, why not share with you a little story, because every presentation needs a story, right? I wasn't always in the scintillating industry of transportation, and I say that facetiously. I was in the sports marketing industry for a while. I had my own company, and I want to just share this real quick story, because it has to do with transportation, it has to do with sports, and it has to do with humility, which is something that I tend to deal with every day. It either comes my way or it's something to handle. So I was representing a very famous coach. He had a perfect season. He has steakhouses named after him. I'm not going to mention his name. And he's got a big smile. And he called me and he says, listen, he says, my family vacation, can you come down here and take care of all this paperwork? I got my agent here. Let's get everything done. Bring your partner down, your business partner. So I said, sure, coach. So, and this is a time where I was representing some products and some people. So we take a plane, and then we take a puddle jumper, and another puddle jumper. This place was in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I'm not kidding. I'm talking nowhere. So I get there, and we're in this little diner, and we're signing contracts and doing things and laughing, and of course, drinking. And because that goes with some of the best sports business. And the coach said, hey, listen, do you want to see this town? And I said, Coach, what town? He goes, no, this town. So he's my client. Of course, I'm going to say yes. And I said, well, you want me to go around back and get the rental car or whatever? He goes, no, we're going to take that bus out front. I said, Coach, I've been looking at that bus for 2.5 hours now, and it hasn't gone anywhere. Are you sure? He says, yes, this is what we're going to do. He's the coach, right? And I am coachable. So we file out, and we start getting on the bus. And I'm right behind this famous coach. I mean, he's famous. I can't believe anybody that wouldn't know him. And we're getting on there, and first of all, the operator of the bus has his legs on the dashboard, and he moves them as we get in. This is to show you this kind of town. And then everybody starts applauding on this bus. I mean, this bus out applauding. And I'm right behind the coach. And he goes up to this guy, and with this big smile, he looks at the guy, and of course he's a famous coach. He goes, "How did you know it was me?" And this guy has the most befuddled look on his face, and he goes, "Sir, I have no idea who you are, but they said if 4 more people showed up, this bus would go downtown." So yeah, a little sports, a little humility, and transportation, right? Anyhow, getting down to it. RTA, if you weren't familiar with this, we have a program called Commuter Advantage. It's a program we take out to companies and organizations where we take advantage of the pre-tax, no federal, FICA, or state taxes if you have direct payroll deductions for transportation. You can use CSAs, FSAs, TSAs, you know, all the different things that they have in place for companies now. And so you're saving about $400 on the average salary with the pre-tax. But in addition to that, when you look at you're saving on gas and maintenance of the car and all those other good things, you're saving at least $3,000 a year. So that's a beautiful thing. AAA estimates that the average person would save $9,000. But, you know, that's if you give up your car completely, and I think that's a little inflated, so, you know, I want to be real. But I'm not talking down AAA, just maybe that's if you go to a city like New York or something. So, the beautiful thing about this is not only does the person get the pre-tax, they get their pass delivered at work, or if they work through a third-party administrator like WageWorks, they actually do everything online, and the fare media is mailed to them, which is phenomenal. And then the last thing, we have something called is a guaranteed ride home. If you have a midday emergency, if you have to stay late, if you don't feel well, unscheduled overtime, and the bus or train isn't going to cut it, we'll let you take a cab or Uber or Lyft, and we will reimburse you up to a $35 fare and let you do that up to 4 times a calendar year. So it's a safety net, you know. And I think so many working moms, I mean, my gosh, you know, they've got 2 jobs, the one they go to for the money and the other one when they go home, and they need that safety net. They get a call from the school or something isn't right. So phenomenal program. I mean, I was recruited in 2003, maybe we had, I don't know, 80-some companies. Today we have over 800, actually 827. We have over, at the time we had about 4,300 people in the program. Now we have over 15,000. It's a $17 million annualized revenue to RTA. In addition to that, the savings to those 15,000 people accumulate to over $131 million. So, you know, there's some good stats there. We're very proud of it. If you're not in it, I just have to ask you, why not? Everyone else is. I guess that's kind of an assumptive close. You're a tough audience. Then we have a program called Ready to Ride. What I love about this is we got with our ad agency, and we're thinking, you know, at the end of the day, when we approach a company or organization about their employees riding, did we do everything humanly possible to try and engage them and try and get them to try public transportation? And I think our marketing director, as he got with me, he decided that, you know what, maybe direct sales is a good thing. So, and it's not we're selling vacuum cleaners that suck a bowling ball out of a closet from 16 feet. I mean, this is public transportation. So, you are a tough crowd. So, anyhow, we developed this program called Ready to Ride. So we set up this microsite, and we set it up with a company where their employees can go there, and they can go to a certain field and say, yeah, I'd like to trial ride, and they'll fill in like where they live, where they work, what times, all that other good stuff. And what we do in the process is when we go to that meeting and we do feed them, we have have trip packets ready, customized trip packets ready for each of those individuals. So basically, for trial riding, you know, I mean, this is better than an airline. It actually has your name on it. And you get your trip plan, you get 2 5-day work week passes, you know, to try RTA, which is like worth $40-some. And then you get a personal transit assistant, like a bus buddy. Somebody who's gonna help guide you through the process, should you have any challenges, or also check in with you and see, you know, rate, you know, how did you like things? So this is, at the end of the day, we're gonna know, and you're gonna know whether it's right for you. Now, the nice thing is that this, in conjunction with the pre-tax program, if this person decides that they're ready to ride and they're going to ride, and they do get in the pre-tax program, we'll give them their first month free. So that's $95 to $105 value. I mean, this is a great program. The conversion rate on this is 1 out of every 3. That's very high. And I said to our marketing director, "Are you sure?" He says, no, I got the numbers, we got the stats. And just to tell you how popular it is, I work with a lot of companies that are moving into the downtown area. Actually, I work with ones that are moving out. But the ones moving in, we had New York Life. They were in Lakewood. They had a call center, maybe about 350 people there. I had 2 sessions with Ready to Ride, and 190 new riders. I mean, that was a major acquisition, and we're very proud of that. I'm not here to be braggadocious in any way, but just to tell you, you know, about the good things that happen with our programs. UPass, for instance. We have a program now, it's about 3 years old. Of course, we have them in CASE, and we've got them at CSU for some years. But Tri-C, 37,000 students that take 1 credit hour or more get public transportation for the entire semester. And not just for school, but this is an avenue that they can use to actually get to know our downtown, get to know our businesses, do some interviewing, because, you know, we want to retain these people. And also, too, and I might say, tongue-in-cheek, you know, it's like an insurance policy. It's a safe ride home from a night out, if you know what I mean. Transportation-oriented development. I meet with a lot of developers, trying to get them to, you know, build on or near some of our rail lines, or, you know, strategically place themselves where, you know, we can give them good access. Matter of fact, I had a call the other day from Jeff Epstein, and he put me in touch with Gordon Premier, who's doing something out here on, I want to say 2,800, 5,800 Euclid, something like that. And we're talking about having a pass that comes with every rental unit. So that's great stuff. Places like Seattle, they're so creative. They even have, well, other than coffee, they're so creative. They actually have passes built into the cam charges of the building, you know, for the individual tenants. So that's kind of neat. And believe me, I'm moving along. I'm not told about it. And then just a couple of quick things. The Metro Parks, we just shot a video with them. Here's like 3,000 part-time jobs that they have, right? And for the kids or whatever, and all the jobs seem to be going to the suburbs because those were the people that, you know, had cars and could make it in. So we did a video on how you load the bicycle on the bus and the advantages of the connectivity points, so you can get to that particular point and then take the bus or train in. So all those things are pretty valuable. I think that's it, and now here's a word from one of our sponsors.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Carrie Solomon, so I'm the program manager in the Office of Management and Budget for Sustainability, Strategic Planning, and Performance Excellence, as well as Budget Management Analysis. So I have about 4 hats that I roll with. So some general RTA factoids, right? So we have an operating budget of about $280 million. The majority of that is for personnel. Considering we have a 2,400 employee workforce, and about 87% of that makes up our ATU, or Amalgamated Transit Union, and our federal order police, so transit police, operators, mechanics, hostlers. So the management crew is the minority in that bunch. We also have a $95 million capital budget that's per year. It's a mix of grants and local dollars that we get from our sales tax revenue. 85% of that goes towards rail equipment and rail infrastructure. It's very capital intense asset to own. And we manage that through our recently updated State of Good Repair program, which focuses on asset rating as well as resilience and vulnerability assessments from a sustainability perspective. So from our revenue, about 60 to 70% is from sales tax. 23 to 24% of that is the grants and grant funding at the federal and state level, and we know ACO helps us out with pass-throughs with them. And the rest is passenger fares and advertising concessions. So I can say that naming rights has been a big benefit to our revenue stream, and that's been an innovative thing. I also work on the materiality assessment. So some of you, I see some faces that may have participated as stakeholders in that. We do that biannually, and that process sets our sustainability strategy for 2 years for the entire organization. So it focuses on things like fiscal responsibility, energy efficiency, air quality, greenhouse gas emissions, remuneration, safe workplace. All of these things fall into a spectrum of importance. We're also moving forward with our ISO 14001 Environmental Sustainability Management System. We have one facility certified. We actually have our second surveillance audit coming up June 6th. So I'm preparing for that. We're also working to roll that out across all of our major facilities. So we have about 7 major facilities that are online that we'll be certifying over the next 6 years. We also have, where I work with a lot of folks internally to develop or get information so I can do internal sustainability reporting. So this includes Scope 1 mobile emissions for all of our fleets, revenue and non-revenue. Heavy rail is our highest emitter, and paratransit actually is our lowest emitter for revenue vehicles in our entire portfolio. And we have Scope 2 emissions that we track, majority of that being the substations that operate and support the electricity to our rail services. We also do a little bit of Scope 3, which includes water, working on water risk rating with the Global Water Tool, and also our waste diversion management. So a lot of this information actually is reported out with the American Public Transportation Association, and we also coordinate with them on development of guidelines for all public transportation agencies across the nation for environmental, and we're just now in the throes of finishing up financial and societal guidelines, which I was on both of those working groups to set sustainability guidelines for workforce and employees, as well as financial models for public transportation. Some other aspects we work on that impacts our ability to provide our services sustainably and also be a sustainable organization. We work with the Partnership for Excellence. It's a program we go through that focuses on leadership, customers, workforce, operations, knowledge management, information technology. It's really an organizational excellence and process improvement initiative that we have that is ongoing and very much enduring. And we submitted an application, our first application was in 2015, and or 14, and we just submitted the last one in 16, and we received the gold award this year, so the bump up from the silver. We also have, we went from APTA's sustainability commitment to bronze to silver last year. And we also fold this information into our strategic plan. So we have a variety of objectives in our strategic plan that focuses on being internally better so that the services that the public partakes in is reliable and clean and safe, and we have courteous folks out there working with the public. It's something that we highly value.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Just mildly changing tracks a little bit. We've got Cindy and Isabella up next. 2030 District has been a great partner organization and taken lead in organizing this whole series, but they work very hard for their membership, for their 2 districts, downtown and University Circle. So I will let you ladies take it away. Right, you have slides.
Yeah, I do.
And I'm just going to stand up. I didn't think through this panel discussion, obviously.
Sometimes it's hard to present.
I know, I chose the wrong seat there. Cleveland 2030 District. So who are we? I don't think I really need to tell this crowd because I know every one of you, and many of you are participating properties. However, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Our mission is to engage property owners in both the downtown and University Circle areas, like Steph just said, to reduce energy and water, and as well as commuter transportation emissions. And the goal is a 50% reduction by the year 2030, hence the name 2030 districts. We are one of 17 districts across North America. Well, there's also one in Toronto, so now I can say that we're international. But truly, a little hometown pride here. We were the second city to create a district, and we grew out of the City of Cleveland's Sustainability Summit. I'm sure that you're all familiar with that event that happens every September. You break into working groups, and one of the working groups, their objective was how do we engage commercial properties to reduce energy consumption, since they consume almost 50% of the energy consumed in the United States. And so that group started doing their homework. They found Seattle, who had just created the Seattle 2030 district. We gave them a call and said, love what you're doing, how do we do one here? And so I really credit Cleveland with being that early adopter. Right, it's not so much the guy who came up with the idea, it's the next guy that really gets the wheels turning. And so I really credit Cleveland with being that early adopter for the districts. What we do is once we get a property to join us, we get them set up on Portfolio Manager. We provide them with semi-annual building performance reports. We show them how they're tracking in terms of energy use, water use, and just recently we created a transportation emissions survey, and so now we're beginning to include that in our building performance reports as well. We have professional partners, so once we show them, here's how you're performing, what's the next step? How do we move the needle? How do we start reducing consumption? We have a whole host of professional partners who offer products and services to help them develop that roadmap and implement those efficiency projects. And then we hold a number of education events like this one. We've got flyers out. We've got tours in these education sessions. We do networking events, particularly for our professional partners and property owners. We're all about sharing information, right? We try not to prescribe to a building what they should do. We try to make the appropriate connections and give them the information and the tools they need to make their own decisions that are best for their buildings. We're in these two footprints. We've got approximately 41 million square feet participating. That's about a 40% participation rate collectively there. We're very proud of that. If any of you have connections to buildings who are not participating, send them my way. We love to add new properties, and we are adding new properties all the time. As a matter of fact, our newest is Cleveland Hearing and Speech Center. We're really proud to have them join us. So I'm going to turn it over to Isabella. She's going to go into some details on our reporting.
So as Cindy mentioned, our transportation goal is a 50% reduction in CO2 emissions from commuter transportation by the year 2030. So what is that 50% reduction from? It is from our baseline. So our first step really with achieving that transportation goal was calculating our transportation emission baseline. So we used the National Household Travel Survey of 2001. This is a federal survey that's dispersed every 8 years. Using that survey, we calculated kilogram CO2 emissions per commuter per year. And I wanted to thank NOACA and our team for their help in helping us figure out how to calculate our baseline. So in October 2016, we dispersed a survey of, that was directed for the employees and tenants of our participating 2030 district buildings. That survey generated over 5,300 responses from over 100 participating buildings. Using that, we were able to calculate current commuter emissions district-wide, as well as for specific buildings. So I'm kind of going to walk through how we report on these transportation metrics to our properties. So this first graph we include in our performance reports for buildings. This shows in the yellow, that's the actual building CO2, kilogram CO2 emissions per commuter per year relative to our baseline, which is about 2,900. And so we kind of project we have 2015, 2020, 2025, and 2030 targets reaching that 50% reduction. And then we also report on transportation mode split. So on the left, that chart shows the mode split for the Cleveland 2030 district from our 2016 transportation survey. And on the right, we show the property adopter, their building-specific, their employee-specific mode split. And at the bottom there, their response rate for the transportation survey. And then I wanted to share with you district-wide, the 2016 survey showed actual kilogram CO2 emissions per commuter per year at about 2,500. Relative to our baseline, that shows about a 15% reduction for our Cleveland 2030 district properties.
Yep, so we're very proud of Cleveland and the progress that we have made. So some of our next steps, we are partnering with NOACA and the City of Cleveland on this year's Commuter Choice Award. We partner with RTA to offer their programs to our 2030 district members. Any of you who are participating properties of 2030 district, please let's get involved in this in the Commuter Choice Award. Do the challenge, set up that microsite for your building. We'd love to see one of 2030 district properties win this thing this year. And again, we've now started to incorporate these graphs in our performance reports. We do these twice a year for all of our buildings so they can really see the progress that they've made. And we'll continue to survey every 2 years. We don't think that it's necessary to do it every year. People don't like to do those surveys too terribly often, and I think every 2 years is really reasonable. So we just did it in 2016. We'll do it again in 2018. Thank you.
So a big part of sustainable transportation is the vehicles themselves and the fuels they run on, and that is the purview of Christina with the Earth Day Coalition's Clean Fuels Program, part of our Department of Energy program. Christina, how long have you been at Earth Day now?
7 years.
7 years long.
Yes.
That's enough to become an expert in every one of the alternative fuels per year. So I will let her talk all about them. I just want to say the Earth Day Coalition program is part of a really big national effort to promote alternative fuels for fleets. She goes a little beyond that and talks sustainable transportation in general, and there's lots to learn from their program. It's really great. Do you have, is this your first slide?
That is my first slide.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure I didn't click too far.
You've got it.
All right.
Good morning, everyone. Big thank you to Cindy for inviting me to participate today. Just like you all, I learn a lot from these things, so it reinvigorates me and it makes me excited about what I'm doing, about all of the options and the different ways that we can combine sustainable transportation methods. As Stephanie mentioned, I've been with Earth Day Coalition for about 7 years now, but for about 4.5 of those years, I was actually our special event and marketing coordinator. I moved into the Clean Transportation Program approximately 2.5 years ago, and I love it. It's fantastic. I love working within the sustainable transportation industry. Earth Day Coalition, most of you probably know us more for our annual Earth Day Festival, which is held in April. We just held it out at Cuyahoga County Fairgrounds, but we are much more than that. We have a program in student environmental leadership where we work with area high schools, we work with neighborhood action, And then we have my program, which is the Clean Transportation Program. The Clean Transportation Program is a Department of Energy sponsored Clean Cities Coalition. So we are one of 80-some coalitions around the country that works with organizations that have vehicle fleets to convert to alternative fuel technologies or practices that reduce their petroleum consumption. So really quickly, before I go any further with this presentation, if I could have a little bit of audience interaction here. Can you raise your hand if you work for a business that has a fleet of vehicles? I don't care how many vehicles it is, 2 vehicles, 100 vehicles, 6,000 vehicles. Great. There are a lot of options out there for you, and I am happy to talk with you one-on-one of those. But today's presentation is going to focus more on the individual and what workplaces can do for the individual. So our region, as I said, we're one of 80 coalitions around the country. I have the Northeast Ohio region, which almost fits NOACA's area perfectly, except for I also have Summit and Portage counties. There's one other Clean Cities Coalition located in Ohio. That's Clean Fuels Ohio, and they're located in Columbus. So they represent the balance of the state, but we partner on quite a few events. So the way I'm going to focus on the individual today is I wanted to talk about electric vehicles. I'm not going to get into very much the technical side of things, but there are quite a few different types of electric vehicles that are out there. There's what you're going to hear, HEVs, PHEV, and EV. So a hybrid electric vehicle, a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, or an all-electric vehicle. So a hybrid electric vehicle, they do not plug in. A hybrid electric vehicle has a combustion engine, and then they also utilize regenerative braking to provide extra power to the vehicle. These ones are probably, in terms of sales of electric vehicles, these are going to be your most common because you don't have to worry about electric vehicle infrastructure. Then you have your plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. Essentially what you're doing with a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle is extending the range of the combustion engine. So there's still a combustion engine, but then through other systems like regenerative braking system, you're able to extend the vehicle range. So like an example of that would be a Chevy Volt, which they say that they get about 550 to 600 miles per tank of gas. And then beyond that, you have your electric vehicles. So one of the ones that everybody knows is the Nissan Leaf. So the Nissan Leaf does not have a combustion engine, and that is a vehicle that you need electric vehicle infrastructure to operate the vehicle. The driving range, approximately 100. The ranges are increasing, and the technology is improving with it. So when it comes to electric vehicles, they actually are available in quite a few different varieties: light-duty vehicles, medium-duty vehicles, heavy-duty vehicles. So even though today's presentation focuses specifically on light-duty vehicles, passenger vehicles, for those of you that have vehicle fleets, there are medium-duty and heavy-duty vehicles options available. So you've decided to take the plunge and you have a PHEV or you have an EV. You need to be able to charge the vehicle. So you're going to hear these terms: level 1, level 2, DC fast charger. Essentially, this is the amount of time that it's going to take for you to charge your vehicle. A level 1 charger, it's going to take the longest amount of time, and typically this is what you might have at home. A level 2 charger, that's going to give you more vehicle charge in a shorter amount of time, and then your DC fast chargers, which give you the highest vehicle charge. And it is commonly in the industry referred to as EVSE, electric vehicle supply equipment. So these are the options that you have. Most people, you can either charge your vehicle at home, which typically, again, that's going to be a level 1 charger that you would purchase. And that, pretty simple, you can plug it right into just having access to a 110 outlet, and you're good to go. But then the other options are charging in public. So there might be office buildings, shopping centers, airports, hotels. Hilton actually has a program with Tesla where they try to encourage Tesla drivers to stay at Hilton. So I believe our local Hilton here actually has a Tesla charging station, and it's a partnership that they have across the country. But what I want to talk about are this workplace charging. So this graph just kind of shows you how people spend their time. All of us know we spend a big chunk of our day at work, or we spend a big chunk of our day at home. So the workplace, you're there 6.5 to 8 hours a day. Your leisure destinations, this might be a library, a park, something along those lines. A shopping center, you're going to spend 28 to 48 minutes, depending on how many people are in there when you go. And then travel stops, like along I-80 or any of those stations. So as you can see, aside from the home, the workplace is a great opportunity for charging stations. What this does is it reduces anxiety, because what they say is that for your everyday purposes, an electric vehicle, not even a plug-in electric vehicle, can accommodate about 90% of your driving habits. But people shop for that 10%. So this might be that long distance trip that you make a couple times a year. And that's how people shop. But for your everyday purposes, an EV mostly can work. So as an employer, if you're looking at installing EVSE, the way to think about it is that it's more, you're investing in your employees and you're investing in options for your employees, or it is showing and demonstrating your sustainability efforts and your sustainability leadership within the community. So 95% of employees say they're, this slide was taken. There is a federal program called the Workplace Charging Challenge. And so this is actually a program that's still active, but DOE is no longer soliciting businesses to participate in it. But it shows that people were really happy with adding workplace charging. But I'm not going to go through those details. There it goes. So if you are an employer and you decide that you want to install EVSE, there are some of the considerations that you need to take in place. Your procurement and your installation, obviously it's going to be very different if you own your building versus if you're leasing the building. If you're leasing the building, you're going to have to go to the building management and get, obviously information from them. But if you are the business owner, the things that you're going to need to look at is what type of charging station makes sense for you, understanding the federal incentives that are out there, state incentives, working with property owners, understanding whatever permitting and zoning rules are in place, and working with your electrical contractors. So there's quite a few considerations that you do need to take in place for the actual installation of the equipment. And then the next thing that you need to take a look at is the management and policy. Are you going to charge your employees to use the electric vehicle supply equipment? Is this going to be a benefit that you offer to your employees? If you're going to charge them, how do you charge them? So there's a lot of different models that are out there, different ways that you can approach this, but these are just some of the things that you need to take into consideration as you go ahead and move forth with installing EVSE. And one of the things that they've seen, you often hear this chicken and the egg effect. What comes first, the EV infrastructure or the electric vehicles? And what they've actually seen, though, is that when you build it, they do come. So when you see that there's EVSE, that alleviates anxiety from the driver, that this is something that they can, all right, I can go to work, and that's essentially doubling my range, because I can plug in at work, I can leave from work with a full charge, go pick up my kids, go to the mall, whatever it is that I need to do in my daily activities, after the fact, I'm still able to do that. And so you see the peer-to-peer effect of current EV drivers feel more comfortable, and that increases awareness and encourages others to adopt it. So if you're looking into it from the individual, some of the things that you need to, either from the individual standpoint or from the workplace, if you're going to purchase an EV, the things to take into consideration, what do you have access to charging? What type of vehicle is going to make sense for you? What is your budget? And EVSE, EVs, they come in all kinds of price ranges. So everything from $25,000 up to $100,000. And actually there's a couple models out there that are like $1 million, but those are just your really crazy ones. So you just need to, these are some of the things that you need to take into consideration. What are my driving habits? And just going further with that. So some of the work that we're doing now, though, to encourage and to share electric vehicles as an option, or PHEVs as an option, is we're a part of the 7-state collaborative effort called Midwest Evolve. So this is through another Clean Cities Coalition that is the American Lung Association of the Upper Midwest. And those are all of our project partners on there. But one of the things that we're doing is that we are hosting a series of electric vehicle ride and drive events. If you are an employer, a great way to get people into the EVs is to host an electric vehicle ride and drive event at your workplace, because then people can get in and drive them. I'm going to have a little bit more audience interaction here. Can you raise your hand if you've ever driven an EV? Okay. And that's pretty representative of the general public. But once you get in them and drive them, they're fun. They really are, they are enjoyable. You can see that they have good performance. It's really a good thing to bring these ride and drive events to people. They get their hands on the vehicles and they can actually see and feel what it's like to be in them. So this project, it's a 3-year project, and we're hosting a series of electric vehicle ride and drive events, workplace charging events. I can help you organize a workplace charging event. Dealership training. Dealerships, there tends to be a high turnover in salesmen there. So one of the things that we're doing a part of this project is organizing and developing dealership training to talk to the dealership about how do you talk about electric vehicles, and then extend the test drive programs. So you can test drive an electric vehicle if you come to our July 28th event at Edgewater Park. It is our 6th annual Clean Transportation Cruise-In. It'll also be a Midwest Evolved electric vehicle ride and drive event. And there'll be some vehicles available there that you can test drive, and then you can also talk to individual owners about their experiences with them. And then lastly, here's just some tools going forward. One of the wonderful things about the Department of Energy Clean Cities program, it is a very resource-rich program. In the 2.5 years that I've been working in this program, I'm still learning about new things that they have available. But all of this right here is available to the public. Your vehicle cost calculator, you can look at, you can input up to 3 vehicles and compare their vehicle emissions, their cost, and just get an apples-to-apples comparison of those vehicles. The A-Fleet tool, that's more for fleets. PEV Readiness Scorecard, that is analyzing the community to see if they're ready for electric vehicles. But all of this is available on the AFDC website. And the one thing that I didn't talk about, which is this graph on the right-hand side, is analyzing emissions from electric vehicles. So if you're in an electric vehicle, you still are using fuel. And so the emissions level of either an EV, PHEV, or a hybrid is going to, or not a hybrid, but a PEV or an EV, is going to be based off the energy sources of your community. Still, even with that in mind, driving an EV, even with Ohio being coal-rich, you are still about halving the amount of emissions with an EV compared to a conventional fuel vehicle. And there's about to be a really great tool that's coming out that Argonne National Laboratory is producing, where you can input all of this information that we talked about today, and it'll give you your total cost of ownership, your emissions of that vehicle, and really explore all of those details. And that's it. Again, thanks for seeing us.
So Alex Bachman is going to talk about UH bikes. I just want to give credit that the City of Cleveland a few years ago did a study to make sure that bike share could come to Cleveland. So thanks to McRae and Janita and Anand and their sustainability office, and then the county sustainability office and Bike Cleveland, a really stalwart, important local nonprofit, came together to contract and create the UH bike system, which Alex is going to tell us all about. We're lucky to have her working on it. Kate has a couple stations that we're super excited about.
I'm going to stand up. Hi, my name is Alex. I'm the general manager of UH Bikes. It's the county's bike sharing system. We right now have 26 stations and 250 bikes between downtown, University Circle, and the near west side. We had a pre-launch last July. Some of you may remember the green bikes that were in downtown Cleveland in advance of the RNC. We began to roll out our full fleet in September. We're nearly done with the installation of all of our stations. We have 4 more to go. 2 will be at CASE. Steph and I are really excited about that. 1 will be at the Sterling branch of Cleveland Public Library, and 1 I hope will be at Cleveland State University. That's it. That's going to be our system. I like to show some of our all-time stats here. All the bikes are equipped with GPS. We have smart bikes. If you've ridden bike share in DC, Chicago, New York, those are smart dock systems. So when you dock the bike, that's where the data comes from. If you're looking at this photo, on the back of the bike, there's a computer. That tracks where you go. Sorry, it's super creepy, but it means that we get these really interesting data points. So this was, I think I ran these last week for our all-time stats. That should give you a sense of where we're at. You know, we're over 10,000 trips now, which I think is pretty cool, and we're over, you know, 2,500 members, which I'm pretty excited about. Something that I don't have in there is that the average trip time is about 6 minutes and 30 seconds. And we do see a higher number of trips on the weekends, which, you know, in a data analysis point says that, you know, that's mostly attractive to visitors. We're seeing a high rate of usage on the weekends. However, I've been like checking our statistics throughout this morning, hoping that I could kind of tell this story, that we are seeing more people use them in the morning than we were a few months ago or around when we launched, which says to me that at least a few people may be replacing their other forms of commute with bike share. I can't tell you if that's an SOV trip or a train trip or a walk, but it's nice to see some action in the mornings. Previously we were seeing, and we still see, mostly after working on the weekends. Most of the information that you need you can find at uhbike.com, but I'll run over some of this stuff. This is our map. I'm sorry it's a little bit difficult to see. The green dots are our stations, including, or in addition to our virtual hubs. You can lock our bikes anywhere. So because we're not a dock-based system, that means that you can unlock your bike, take it for a ride, and lock it to a sign pole or a public bike rack. It's an additional $2 convenience charge. And if you take it outside of the city of Cleveland, it's a $20 charge because that's outside of the system area. But that does enable us to set up these things called virtual hubs. So, you know, we have 26 of the like silver gray stations that you guys see downtown. We also have virtual hubs at mostly on the near west side, the Happy Dog Bike Box, the Nano Brew Bike Box, the Bike Racks and Platform. That sort of replaced Bike Share 1.0, which was Zagster, in a partnership with some of those business owners. So that means that you can lock there, even though there's not a station, without that $2 charge. Most of this is run through an app on your phone. That's the easiest way to access the system and get signed up. I'm going to ask you guys to take a minute today and sign up for this before you leave to sort of reduce that user interface when you're standing at a station. I also have some discount codes for you. So this is what our pricing plan looks like. Our cheapest, the best deals, the best values on here, I know we like great value in our region, is 10 cents a minute or $10 a month. So that pay-as-you-go membership is prorated. You are only charged for the time that you use the bike. It's a great way to get started. We also have a prepaid membership that's good for visitors who might be tooling around on the bikes, especially downtown or in University Circle. But we also have these monthly, annual, and student plans. So the annual shakes out to $10 a month. It's a really, really good deal. You're billed monthly. Each of these 4 locals plans gives you up to 60 minutes of free ride time daily. So you won't be charged for up to 60 minutes. The monthly is $15, 3-month commitment, and if you have a .edu address, whether or not you're a student, you can sign up for the student membership. So I encourage you guys to all consider how these might fit into your commuting plans. It would be great to see you all as members. So I know we like to talk about what you can do. So seriously, I'm going to pause for 30 seconds, ask you to take out your cell phone, search for the Social Bicycles app, and download it. I'm sorry to use your data, but this is really important. So I'm going to wait for 30 seconds. Take your phones out.
Cindy, what's the Wi-Fi password?
I had that sheet.
That's not for mobile phones. Sorry.
Well, it's the same thing.
It's not for mobile
It
phones.
didn't work on my phone.
Doesn't work on mobiles.
They have a different mobile number.
Really? Okay.
You're gonna have to use
We'll
it.
try it again.
Or you could have already downloaded it and used it.
If you can't use your data, put a note on your calendar.
Yeah, just
do this
remind.
one.
Yeah, we keep. Yeah. Me.
It's written 65
Yeah, I would, Tim is, you know, pointedly owning his UH Bikes membership, which is great. So we have some of our stakeholders in the room, Annie from University Circle, Matt from the City Sustainability Office, Mike Foley, Tim, have all been involved with this program. And I know that they're all regular users of the bike, which is awesome to have our stakeholders actually using a program that they've helped bring into fruition, so thank you guys. Another thing that you can do, we offer group memberships for employers, so you can buy a round of memberships for your office. Talk to me about that. My contact info is on the last slide. You know, a lot of this stuff does start with you guys. It's great to have tracking, it's great to have programs, but if you're not actually using it, then you're not really engaging in mode shift. My third point, don't drive to lunch. Like, figure out ways that, think about ways that you can work this stuff into your life. Ohio Commute can help substantially with that. And then, just ask for more. All of you, if you're not in HR roles, ask your employers for more. Ask them for group memberships to subsidize that instead of just parking or what have you. So we have these promo codes right now. There's a $350 credit that gets you 30 minutes free with the pay-as-you-go membership. Also, through the end of the month, you can get a $10 credit that's 1 month free with the annual membership. So we can circulate this information afterwards, maybe, Cindy, or you can take a picture of this screen, or I can help you sign up. But those are promo codes. Tomorrow is Bike to Work Day, so Bike Cleveland will be set up with a hub at the bike rack. It's a great way to try biking for the first time, and maybe these promo codes will encourage you to try that.
If you want a bike pool, you can go and Ohio Commute. All the Energizer stations have event pages.
So, as I said, mode shift starts with you guys. These programs only go so far unless they have actual users. So biking is, I think, a really, personal choice. I bike everywhere. I know, shout out to Mitch, he rode his bike here today. Congratulations. But that's something that you actively have to choose to do. So I like to remind everyone that mode shift starts with you. So you can cut the ribbon on your UH Bikes commute. I think Tim gave us a really good interview of why this stuff is really, really important. And one thing that I'd like to add at last point is inducing demand for this stuff. The more people that we have riding, whether it's bike share or your own bike or walking or riding transit, the easier it is for all of us to say that, we need more investment in this stuff. So I said that, once we roll out those last 4 stations, that's it. We don't have funding for more stations right now. So people ask me all the time when we're going to expand, and right now I have no news for you. So the more that I can show that this is an active and useful program that people want more of, the easier it is for me to justify why we need more public funding for this. So I think that goes for all of us across the board. The more that you use Ohio Commute, the more that you ride RTA, the more that you engage with 2030, the more you use alternative vehicles, the easier it is for all of us to say that this is valued and should be invested in. So, I hate to put the onus on you guys personally, but that's why you should download the app. So this is your homework. Download the app, sign up for a membership, follow us. We're Googleable. You can Google Cleveland Bike Share. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. Talk to me about a group membership. There are your promo codes. My contact information is here. Download the app. Thank you.
So next up we have Paula, who's going to talk from the employer perspective. There's lots of things that our organizations and businesses, regardless of how large or small you are, can do. And Paula's firm has been a real leader, especially in the bike area. And I just want to point out she has a lovely bike pin on her blazer today.
Nice.
Paula, take it away.
Thanks. I'm Paula Taliski, the facilities manager with the Cleveland office of Squire Patton Boggs, where we have about 350 lawyers and staff. My role includes managing the physical operations of our office and support services, and also our green initiatives in Cleveland and a little bit beyond that I'll touch on. I've included a few slides on the history of SPB. So Squire, Sanders, and Dempsey has its roots in Cleveland, founded in 1890, and through a series of combinations we've grown to a footprint across the world. We now have 47 offices in 21 countries. And in 2014, we became Squire Patton Boggs following the combination with a Washington, D.C. firm. So our greening story actually began in about 2008 when the Cleveland Metro Bar Association launched its Green Initiative Committee. We have lawyers who are members and in leadership roles within the CMBA, and one of our partners was on that inaugural Green Initiative Committee. They began doing outreach to firms in 2009 to become green certified and to participate in their annual Greener Way to Work Day, where those certifications were announced. So in 2009, we already had some paper management and electricity reduction practices and recycling practices in place. So we qualified for the green certification right away, and we promoted the CMBA Greener Way to Work Day. In 2010, the CMBA introduced an innovation award concept to their annual challenge. Member firms and companies were invited to submit unique sustainable practices they were doing within their companies, and that award was also announced at this annual event. So we submitted Innovation Award entries in 2009 and in 2010, and we didn't win. But we made a commitment at that 2011 event to launch a year-long campaign as a means to demonstrate our commitment to sustainable practices. That would be our 2012 submission to the CMBA, and we had a year to prove ourselves. Our campaign had these 3 phases. The goals and objectives were set, and actually they continue through today. So the first, greening our office environment. We branded our campaign with our Go Green logo. We plastered it all over t-shirts. We had seed cards. We used it on all of our signs and all of our posts within the office. We created a Go Green intranet page for all of our campaign news and events. Rideshare info. It had picture gallery, which we currently still use today. We had already begun electricity reduction initiatives in 2007, which became our baseline year for reporting to the CMBA our improvement. By the end of our campaign in 2012, we reduced electricity by about 22%. And actually at the end of 2016, we're down 34% over our baseline tracking, and our costs are down about 31%. We set the default on our copiers and our printers to duplex or two-sided print, and we issued a challenge among the 8 floors in our office building. So we started that duplex rate at 26% at the beginning of our campaign, and we ended at about 41%. Today, we're at about 51%. So we're continuing to work and improve. But I think one of the important things about that is that savings per year represents about 350 cartons of paper, and our costs are down about 26%. We put in measures to step up our recycled trash. We reached a 62% recycled trash rate during our campaign. Today we're at about 72%, and we were the first tenant in our building to introduce composting. We hosted a trade show style sustainability fair in the office for lawyers and staff with representatives from organizations that included local farmers market, RTA, the county waste management company, just to name a few. And during that campaign, a bike committee developed with their own goals and objectives around riding for transportation and recreation. The second goal was the collaboration with our building management and other tenants within the building. We were able to enhance recycling in our building, and that also helped build the bike share network we had. The third was creating the greener lifestyle opportunities outside our office environment. So we hosted lunch and learn talks in the office, where we, on community gardening, we posted community news on our Go Green site regarding suburban shredding events, recycling events, and at that time we began staffing the annual spring cleanup at the St. Martin de Porres Community Garden, which we still do today. So during that year, greening became less of a campaign, although it was still very much a mission for us, but it became a part of our culture. And we won the Innovation Award in 2012. Our 2013 CMBA Innovation Award submission focused solely on the pedal power of our bike committee. So actually our bike committee played a part in all 3 roles of our campaign. It initially consisted of a few lawyers who promoted biking to work and to ensure that our office parking garage complied with the city's ordinance regarding bike parking. The bike committee quickly expanded to about 10 people who continue to bike to work on a regular basis. And with the expansion of the bike committee came a broadening of their goals and a nice long list of achievements. So thanks to the direct efforts of our bike committee, our office parking garage is now compliant. We have new bike racks and we have bike lanes painted within the garage. We had become an early sponsor of the bike rack, downtown Cleveland's commuter station, and Bike Cleveland, Northeast Ohio's bike advocacy organization. Our sponsorship gave us access to the showers, to bike maintenance, bike repair, bike rentals, bike storage, along with the opportunity to support the bike infrastructure that was growing in downtown Cleveland, Northeast Ohio. We held and still hold monthly Greener Way to Work days as a takeoff to the CMBA annual event to encourage employees to walk, bike, ride share, use public transportation, or drive a fuel-efficient vehicle to work. Participation is tracked monthly, and we have a raffle for people who participate. We have about 75 people a month who participate. We participated in the National Bike Challenge. That's the initiative that encourages people to bike for transportation and recreation and log their miles and other stats for free. We have a long-standing commitment to United Way and Cleveland philanthropy more generally, and we participated during the years that United Way hosted their Ride United fundraiser rides. We invited guest speakers to our bike committee meetings and to office-wide lunch and learn programs on topics such as bike safety and hands-on bike maintenance. One of our bike committee's most innovative initiatives are the Bike to Lunch outings. So this gave folks within the office an opportunity to go to lunch to places a little bit further afield than the immediate downtown area and build up a little appetite. And so our SPB cyclists, along with our summer associates with bike rentals from the bike rack, joined. Our bike committee organized family and friends, breakfast rides, towpath rides, and a downtown scavenger hunt. For the scavenger hunt, teams of riders were required to decipher clues and document locations in downtown Cleveland that had historical significance to Squire Sanders. The hunt started at the bike rack, where we were met by an RTA bus that showed our riders how to use their bike racks on their buses. In 2013, we applied for the League of American Bicyclists Bike-Friendly Business designation. The League is an organization that represents, The League is an organization that represents bicyclists in the movement to create safer roads, stronger communities, and a bicycle-friendly America through information, advocacy, and promotion. Announced on Earth Day that year, we were awarded the bronze designation, becoming one of only 63 businesses in the nation to earn that designation, and the first in Greater Cleveland. In 2014, we were awarded the silver status by the League, becoming the first business in Northeast Ohio, and only 4 in Ohio, to reach the silver level status, and that's active through 2018. We participated in NOACA's Commuter Choice Challenge since it began in 2014. As you may know, you're required to report metrics and various metrics and initiatives, and our monthly Greener Way to Work days and our bike committee achievements gained us points that other organizations couldn't claim. We continue to participate and place annually, often up against companies who are clients of our firm. And I already put up a post on our Go Green site about the Go commutes. In 2014, the Cleveland Clinic launched Velisano, its community fundraising and cycling event for cancer research. We've had a team of volunteers and riders since 2014, and it has grown every year. In 2016, we had 31 riders and over a dozen volunteers who worked that weekend, so more than 10% of our total office population. We've hosted training rides, fix-it workshops, fundraising events, and team building events, and then always a celebration at the end of the ride. We've raised over $100,000 for Velisano. And Team SPB's captain, Mitch Thompson, was voted most valuable team captain by Velisano. The tangible aspects of our bike committee's work range from wearing bike jerseys with our logo that was designed by one of our in-house marketing guys, to sponsoring bicycle fundraising events and organizations in the city, to being awarded the city's first bicycle-friendly designation, to our lawyers riding alongside their clients and colleagues and other contacts. These efforts generate publicity and positive exposure for the firm. Some of those include, we were interviewed by contacts from the Ohio and National Rails to Trails Conservancy, who were shooting a short film in Cleveland about Cleveland's bike culture. And they wanted to interview a non-bike-centric business about how we were incorporating bicycling into our culture. Members of our committee were invited to meet with the Ohio Museum of Natural History, Green City Blue Lake Institute, who wanted to learn more about our bicycle-friendly designation. We were included in one of the first City of Cleveland's Sustainability Conference videos. We sponsored Cleveland's Burning River Fest, which is dedicated to improving, maintaining, and celebrating the vitality of Northeast Ohio's freshwater resources. Channel 19 did a feature story on our firm's cycling activities. And Austin McGaughan, who I'm actually pinch hitting for this morning, who had a conflict, appeared on NPR's local affiliate, WCBN Sound of Ideas, about the Weissling Loom in Northeast Ohio. And
Point it maybe towards the podium behind you. I don't know where that.
You can help.
Or maybe it's actually up there. Here, I'll do it up here.
I know, come on.
There you go.
There we go. So, we won the Innovation Award in 2013 as well. Yeah. But needless to say, that the CMBA revamped their whole Innovation Award program after our second win. So, I've included a couple of other slides that I just want to touch on. So, in 2015, the CMBA invited participants to their annual event to provide 3 green tips to share. So these were what follows are our 3. So we track and measure our duplex volume in just a simple free program called WebJet Admin. When I plastered this across the office, I included how Cleveland measures up to our other US offices. A little competition always helps. The second tip that we offered was, we took a look at how much we were spending on disposable cups, and it was actually more cost effective for us to buy a ceramic cup, and we were able to brand it with our Go Green logo. The third tip that we shared, and maybe this is something that is, would be of interest to you too. Consider holding your own monthly Greener Way to Work days. There isn't a whole lot of organization involved. We track participation in a simple spreadsheet, and people look forward to that monthly raffle and the chance to win. And then this next slide touches on an initiative we do across the firm. We track our carbon footprint through an annual greenhouse gas assessment process. Every office participates by tracking and inputting through 39 key indicators into a database. Those results roll up to our carbon footprint report, which is shared with clients who require it from us in survey responses, in responses to RFPs, and also to the individual offices as a way to work on measuring and improving. My role is to ensure that all of our offices meet their compliance deadline and to help them with their reporting. So I'm sharing this just to reinforce that corporate responsibility is not just a Cleveland SPB thing, it is a firm-wide thing. It is part of the fabric of who we are. Lastly, I was thinking about a couple of takeaways that I could offer, and I guess for us, first of all, it was raising awareness in all aspects of our campaign and how you can benefit and learn and grow and use it beyond the office and give back. We didn't make major infrastructures to be able to reach the achievements that we had throughout our campaign. And the second is, the publicity, our logo on jerseys, our sponsorships, there is intrinsic value in that, and that provides opportunities. You do it because it's the right thing to do, reduce your carbon footprint, but the value of that is far-reaching. And lastly the third is collaboration. From our relationship to our landlord and now other tenants in our building, and especially within the office, there is a camaraderie among the people in our office now that has developed as a direct result of our campaign and our bike committee. In an office of 350 people, you don't always get to know everyone, or you don't have reason to be able to work with everyone, but around our campaign and the cause of sustainability, and especially biking, that has grown, and that's invaluable. So, thank you.
So I'm going to put all of us up here on the spot a little bit. How do each of us, where do we live, how do we get to work, how are we making our own commutes a little bit more sustainable? Not everybody has to verbatim go down the line, but if a couple of us could, and I'll put myself on the spot first. So I have a house in Fairview Park. We bought it specifically because it's a hyper-walkable neighborhood. Our walk score is really high. We can walk to a library, the rec center, a grocery store, and all of the schools in our neighborhood. So on the weekends or when I get home, I don't have to get back in a car and can sustain our family pretty well. But I bought my house before I worked at Case Western, so I have, when there's no traffic, a 29-minute commute. I time it maniacally. I drive a hybrid Prius. I bought it used at a good price. So I'm lucky to have that, but there aren't very many days where I have the flexibility to be able to really take sustainable transit. So I try to do a park once philosophy when I drive in. I don't drive to meetings, even though we have a 175-acre campus. That can be challenging some days, but we luckily have a shuttle system at Case, and I'm really excited now that I can take UH bikes to lunch, and we're talking about having an office bike for my small team that we can use a lot of days of the week too. So Carrie, can we maybe start down with you? Can you share what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I'm originally from Warren, Ohio, where you have to drive everywhere. And when I first moved up to Cleveland, I moved to Carmel Heights, and all RTA employees get to ride for free. So for 2.5 years, my commute was the Route 83 to Triscuit Rapid Station, Red Line west of the way downtown. It was about 40 minutes. And 5 years ago, I moved to Tremont, so now it's a 15-minute bus ride on the 81 or a 12-minute bike ride, and on a good day, I'll walk. Because my family is an hour away, I also lease I lease a car, but I've had it for just about a year, and I just put 3,800 miles on it.
Anybody else want to share up here?
Sure, I'll share. I live in Lakewood. Our office is located in Ohio City. I do lease a Camry vehicle, but what I strive for is about 40% of my commute being public transit. I would like to ride my bike more, but I will be honest that I am hesitant because of the safety. I have not come to the point yet that I feel safe taking the route from Lakewood into Ohio City. So I use public transit most of the time. Today and yesterday, so I carpooled to get here today, and I'll be taking public transit back to the office. Yesterday I was at the NOACA presentation on their long-range transportation plan, and same thing, I carpooled downtown and then took the RTA system back. And again, living in Lakewood, it's a very walkable community, so I'm always walking. Tim touched on the fact about taking ownership of your commute and not being in a single car. It's isolating being in a car, and I feel it's, coming from me, I work with organizations on their vehicles. But personally, if I can walk or take public transit, that's what I do.
I can talk. So I moved to Cleveland. I'm from DC. I moved here from San Francisco. I've never driven to work, and I didn't see why living here should be any different. I know that sometimes Cleveland has it's like, oh, this won't work because it's Cleveland. Like, Alex, you're from DC. You lived in San Francisco. It's not different. I still bike to work every day. My partner and I consciously bought our house in Ohio City because we bike and walk to work, or we take transit. We have a car. It sits in our garage that's like bigger than our backyard, which is hilarious. Because we do drive, he's from Cincinnati, I'm from DC, we drive back to see our families. But we do not drive to work, and we don't drive to get groceries, and we don't drive to see our friends. I just want to, it's very easy, again, to say like, well, we're not New York, we're not Austin, but you can do that stuff here. It just sort of requires, like, again, taking that personal initiative, and I think that's why I'm kind of bullish on this stuff. We have neighbors who similarly say that they love, going to New York and walking everywhere, but they'll come back to Cleveland and they'll drive. And it doesn't have to be like that. You don't have to do that. So, I encourage you guys to think, sort of like, I can do this. We have our constraints. I wish we had more bike infrastructure. There's a lot that I wish in terms of our transit system and our bike share system, but we can do a lot more with what we have than what we're currently doing. So I empower you guys to do that on your own. So.
It's really obvious why she was hired.
Yes.
Anybody else?
Sure. Like Alex, I live in Ohio City with my wife. I haven't driven to work with the exception of like a few times I've had to drive to Columbus for a meeting since 2011. So I bike pretty much every day during the inclement weather. I'll hop on the 22, which basically takes me door to door, which is fantastic. Even though I don't use the bus that often because I bike most of the time, I still buy a monthly pass just so I can have it, and I don't mind giving RTA some of my money. We lease a hybrid. My wife does tend to drive to work because she works with the refugee population, and so a lot of times she may have to take people to the doctor's appointment or things like that, or pick someone up from school. So it's, but she works two miles away from where we live. I think we put 5,000 to 6,000 miles on the car on average per year, which is way less than half the national average. I guess it is a personal responsibility issue, as Alex indicated. We make a lot of excuses, but at the same time, I think one of the important takeaways that I want to get people today in the room, as well as through our community choice awards at NOACA and Ohio Commutes, that it's also an employer responsibility. There's so much on the employer side that you can do to facilitate your employees not driving alone to work. And we don't think about that. But, you know, simply providing employees with a suite of information during their onboarding process, instead of just giving them a parking pass and saying, go at it, has significant impact. And there's a lot of evidence that supports it, that finds that if you tell people when they change their jobs about alternatives and you give them a transit pass, they're over 3 times more likely to stop driving to work. So I really want to encourage the employers in the room to figure out, you know, to take what we've discussed, to come to me at NOACA, to come to Alex, to come to Christina, to come to RTA and find out what you can do at your organization, because you may not think that you can shape your employees' behavior, but you really can.
I was just going to share something that we haven't talked about today, which is telecommuting. So Cindy and I are a 2-woman operation, and we don't go into work every day. We work from home mostly. So that's, you know, 0 emissions being saved through telecommuting.
That's great.
And when we do have to come downtown, we carpool.
Yeah, we always carpool.
So I have a robust list of questions, but we really want to hear from you guys. So anybody have a burning mic?
Yeah, I'm just curious about the pre-tax benefit and, again, it's eligible for employers and for their employees. Is it for public transportation? Is it eligible? I'm thinking about bike share or for purchasing, helping to purchase, high emission or low emission vehicles or for other benefits for employees
Yeah, I only know about it being available for public transportation. I know I was working with the VA. VA will actually buy a bicycle if they want to. They'll actually subsidize the cost of a bike, which is phenomenal. But it's the only thing I know is transportation itself. Maybe someone else has.
Yeah, I think Tim's got an answer.
2 things. To add on to the public transportation component there, in addition to pre-tax dollars for transit passes, there's also subsidized van pool options. So RTA just launched their van pool program, van share, and you can get up to 30% deduction towards the monthly price of a van pool through RTA if you live in Cuyahoga County or your workplace is located in Cuyahoga County. But specifically to the question about active transportation, IRS allows a $20 per month active transportation subsidy to your employees. So you can do a pre-tax $20 benefit to employees who bike or walk to work.
So I know at Case Western, our HR department has said for employees, if you're taking advantage of the pre-tax RTA commuter advantage, then you can't take advantage of the pre-tax bike to work allocation. So as an employer, you can offer multiple options. Each employee may only be able to take advantage of one of them. And then individually, there are, as far as I know, Christina, tell me if I'm wrong, there is still an electric vehicle tax credit if you personally purchase it.
It depends on the vehicle. The vehicle tax credit is available up until the point of market saturation. So I don't know for the individual vehicles which one's right now. But once it hits market saturation, then they stop offering that. So your newer electric vehicles, like the Chevy Bolt that just came out this year, that should be eligible for the full 7,500. I believe, don't quote me on it, please look it up.
That's the Bolt.
The Bolt,
not
yeah, with the
Volt.
V. Yeah. And then there is also, I don't think it's been renewed yet this year, but for the past several years, there has been an electric vehicle supply equipment tax credit of 30% of the cost of the equipment and the installation. The problem with that tax credit is that it's frequently renewed at the end of the year and it's retroactive. So it's hard if you actually own a business. It can be difficult to plan for that and include that in your costs because it tends to be retroactive. And as far as I know, as of right now, it has not yet been renewed for 2017. But if you did do it in 2016, there might be some efforts that you can take to retroactively apply for it.
Other questions? Yeah?
You may have already mentioned it about new age bikes, but where does the funding come for that program?
So the capital funding, pretty much, and it's how we sort of have been talking about this, was federal funds from NOACA through the county. Bike Cleveland raised the 20% required match for that. The city, the county, some of the foundations contributed to that local match. UH is the title sponsor. So they own the naming rights. I work for a for-profit operator of bike share systems in North America. So some of that title sponsorship, that generally covers our operations, our marketing, and that's revenue for the company that I work for. Is that fair?
Other audience questions? So I've got one. So Cleveland, as has been stated many times over, we're a pretty car-centric culture. And we also have some macro regional issues that are prohibiting us from getting sustainable transportation. But on the cultural side, I feel like there's a real barrier. I work a lot with the UH and the Cleveland Clinic sustainability teams, and they say that while some of their lower paid employees readily take transit because it's fiscally responsible and necessary, they have a hard time, for example, getting their doctors to take the bus. Maybe sometimes people will like to work, but there is a cultural barrier to people doing something different. And so I'm just wondering if anybody, I know some of you mentioned some things in your presentation, but I just want to hit home. Culturally, as employers, what are some of the things we can do to get people to just test the waters and try a different mode? Whether it's test driving an electric vehicle, taking transit, biking, walking, trying bike share for the first time.
If I could offer, so I think in our firm, one of the things our bike committee has done is to organize meetup locations for people biking in. So this group coming in from the west side, we know these folks are coming. You can kind of organize yourself and plan to meet up to ride. So it encourages people to do it maybe who are a little bit reticent to do it on their own. But that has helped to grow the numbers.
That's great.
That's
and there's a lot of that going on for Bike to Work Day tomorrow around town, and Energizer stations where you could maybe plan to meet a friend and then bike the rest of your way to work.
I would say, I think this is where employers can really make a difference. In my past life, I was director of sustainability, and we were starting to develop a really robust program around commuting and fleet vehicles and so on and so forth. And I think that's where the employer can play a part. If you're an employer that, for example, might offer a vehicle to executives, limit the kind of car they can buy. One thing that we were thinking about doing was, perhaps limiting that miles per gallon, and if you go over, you have to buy carbon offsets, or something.
Just setting some new policies,
Setting
right?
new policies, encouraging responsible transportation methods. We used to provide better parking spaces for those who carpool or had an EV car, all those kinds of things, which actually is written into the LEAD program too. So I think employers play a big part in that.
I think there's a lot of physical infrastructure things we can do to aid people. Having lockers and showers, having a bike rack.
Exactly.
Making sure that there's just basic signage, even if it's just a poster or a brochure saying where the closest transit station is or where a close bike share station is.
I would also, so I wasn't busy enough, so I decided to get my master's in public administration. So I was doing my homework last night and doing a lot of reading about organizational culture, because that's what you talk about in public administration. And I'm sure you guys have all thought about what the culture of your organization is. And I think Paula gave a pretty good rundown of how those bike pools at Squire Patton Boggs don't exist because it's like, oh, bike pools. It's because you consciously chose to become a bicycle-friendly workplace. So as you guys are sort of thinking about the culture, the culture that you want to engender in your organization, then it starts to make more sense to think about, oh, we should have signage, or oh, we should review the parking subsidies that we're providing. That stuff doesn't come out of thin air. You do need to build that. And I think that you can see organizations start to think in that direction when you make not just sustainability, but mode shift a stated goal. So if you truly want to reduce the number of employees driving to your office, say we want to reduce the number of employees driving to our office, how are we going to do that? And then it starts, then you start looking at some of the existing cultural practices in a more critical light and considering how you can shift those. So, if you provide free parking to your employees, if you just hand them a parking pass, as Tim said, nothing is going to be more attractive than driving by yourself. But if you don't make it free, and if you provide, a choice between, oh, you can use the parking subsidy, but you can also cash out for that and be paid for taking your bike, or you apply that to a UH Bikes membership, or you apply that to a RTA pass, like, that's actually engendering a culture shift, rather than just assuming that, like, oh, well, people in Northeast Ohio drive, so we should just, like, make it easy for them to drive, because that's what they do.
I think one of the, to piggyback on Alex's comments, organizationally, it's also important for leadership to be a role model, to take about get buy-in from the top down. I know Alex is from DC. I lived in DC. When you take Metro in DC, you'll see members of Congress, you'll see members of the media. It's people who are important don't just drive themselves. But I think car ownership and parking spaces are aspirational. So when you elevate throughout the organization, what do you get? You get your name on a parking space. You get a company car. You get if you're very important, you might get a chauffeur. And so that's aspirational. I think Donald Shoup is kind of the godfather of parking policy, and he talks about how he's worked at UCLA and at Berkeley. And the only way that you get your name on a parking space at Berkeley or UCLA is if you win a Nobel Prize in physics or something like that. But that's very aspirational.
They need to name a shuttle bus off.
But if you get that type of organizational buy-in from the top down, where employees see that the C-suite is taking transit, is maybe biking once in a while, is carpooling, it shows them that it's not. The aspiration is not to drive alone and park in a place with your name on it. The aspiration is to take the best option for you.
Great.
So I don't want to necessarily end with this. I think there's room for more questions, but I did, as everybody was talking, create a David Letterman-esque, it's not at all funny, so I shouldn't have said that. It's just a top 9 list of things we can do today. I used to work for Entrepreneurs for Sustainability, and my old boss, Holly Harlan, would end every meeting with, so what are you going to do differently tomorrow? So this is my, what can you do differently tomorrow, top 9 list. So number 1, it's Bike to Work Day. So go back and talk to somebody in your office, send a group email to a listserv that you have, post something, asking people to potentially consider Bike to Work tomorrow. This is National Bike to Work Day tomorrow. It comes every year in May. I think it's always the 3rd Friday, but there is every month there's a Bike to Work Day. So if you can't swing it tomorrow, plan something this summer to try to dabble in changing your office culture and do a group Bike to Work Day. Number 2, NOACA talked about several upcoming deadlines, community meetings, but I think it's June 15th. June 15th is a training session for the Go Ohio portal, but June 16th is the commuter choice survey deadline. CASE has been participating and has gotten a couple of awards from commuter choice over the last few years. It's a really good way to actually baseline what's going on in sustainable transportation in your business or institution. So even if you don't think you're going to score well, use it as a tool to benchmark yourself and consider applying this year. We'd really like to, as a group, dramatically increase the number of businesses who are applying and kind of get some peer pressure to increase usage of that. Number 3, get a portal on the Go Ohio tool. So Tim and Bev in the back are both really trying to help organizations set up their own Go Ohio portal so that your employees can go in and say that's my business portal and get some peer gamification and contests going on in your business or institution. Number 4, do the RTA Commuter Advantage program if you're not already, and schedule with Jim a Ready to Ride program. Like he said, 1 in 3 people who get that little pamphlet with their name on it are turned into permanent commuters in transportation. There's a lot of reluctance to ride the bus for the first time if you've never done it before and you're, a 40 or 50-year-old adult. So you need a little bit of help sometimes figuring it out. And I will be honest, I've gone on and figured out my commute and haven't done it yet from my current place of work. So sometimes you just need a little bit of an extra impetus, and knowing that there's other people in your workplace who are all trying it in a given week or day. Because he comes in and sets it up, and hopefully the next day or next week, everybody will kind of be trying it at the same time. Even if people don't continue, maybe just tell people they've got some flexibility for a week to be a little bit late, have to leave a little early to meet the transit times. Let people try it out and see how it works. And just this conversational topic, getting more water cooler talk and lunch talk about people's experience on transit, I think is really important and can encourage that. So number 5, Integrate sustainable transportation as a topic into your employee orientation. When you onboard somebody new, it's a great time to talk about all of these array of options that are available in Cleveland. But you've got to get somebody in HR to add that to the bullet or the checklist that you guys have internally. Number 6, evaluate your fleet for alternative fuels. The Clean Fuels program is a membership-based program, but they have lots of assistance they can give. They can come and meet with you in person and evaluate your fleet. But beyond that, do a ride and drive, right? Encourage your employees to go to the cruise-in. Talk about your employees' clean fuel vehicle options, even if it's just educating people on hybrids or electric vehicles. There's lots of misinformation out